A SPAC that is related to EV? What more could I ask for? What is happening, investors? It is your boy Jack. I am not a financial advisor. I got the clothing line to prove it. I don't actually sell this hoodie. This was a prototype, but I felt like wearing it. And today, we have an exciting company to speak about. A company called Chargepoint. The hint is in the name. They are in the charging sector. And they are potentially, and potentially is the key word, going public via a SPAC. And if it is to happen, they will be performing the reverse merger with SwitchBack Energy Acquisition Corp. The ticker symbol right now is SBE. And I mean, you guys know me. You know I love electric vehicles. You also know I love SPACs, so I had to make a video on these guys. And a few people have been speaking about them in my Discord channel lately, so I said, you know what, let's make a video. Now this is actually a really interesting one, okay, because Chargepoint is a company I have looked into before, primarily through Lordstown Motors. That's where I found out that these guys existed. And the only other electric vehicle charging company I've ever looked into was Blink, and we've spoken about them a couple of times on the channel. I mean, I was speaking about them before their initial run-up happened, before all the drama happened where they crashed. I never did end up investing. I just never quite had the last bit of confidence to go ahead and get involved with Blink. Will I have that confidence with Chargepoint? That's what we're going to try and figure out today, people. So right before we get into the video, my friends, can I please ask you to smash that juicy like button? It really helps me out. I would appreciate you so much. If you're new around here, what are you waiting for, my friend? Hit that juicy red subscribe button and join the family. And please drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this company, especially if you've been researching them, because I know on this channel we love EV and we love SPACs. With all that being said, guys, let's get into the company. So I mean, let's start it off with the absolute basics. First of all, we're on the company's website. I mean, the hint is in the name. It is a company called Chargepoint. First thing we see on the website, electric mobility is here. Our passion, making it easy. So they're all about charging stations. A few quick fire points just to give you an idea of the kind of scales we're working with in regards to this company. They're the world's leading and most open electric vehicle charging network, okay? The world's leading, absolutely massive. They provide access to hundreds of thousands of places to charge with one account. So hundreds of thousands. They have an investor presentation all the way back from 2016, so we're not going to reference this much because obviously it's very outdated. But you can see in 2016, okay, there was 26,000 plus charging spots. Now, a short 4 years later, we have hundreds of thousands. So, I mean, it's been a fantastic few years for this company. Lots of growth, lots more charging stations. More than 82 million 45,000 charges delivered. So I mean, people are using these a lot, and I mean a lot of people are using these. So drivers plug into a Chargepoint network approximately every 2 seconds. More than 2,350,000,000 electric miles have been driven on the Chargepoint network. So right off the bat, we get an understanding that, you know, they're an absolutely massive company with an awful lot of infrastructure, okay? Now we can see here, okay, we work with businesses, we work with fleets, and we work with drivers. So fleet is how I initially found out about this company. If you've been on this channel before, you know, we speak about Lordstown Motors a lot. I love the company. They're my second biggest hold in my portfolio. I interviewed the CEO only a couple of days ago. And so obviously I have read their investor presentation inside out multiple times. And on this slide here, page 32, there's strategic relationships with key industry leaders, okay? I went ahead and I looked into all of these companies and I was looking at their charging infrastructure. And obviously I knew a lot about Duke Energy before from Workhorse. I spoke about Duke Energy quite in depth with the CFO of Workhorse. I had never heard of Chargepoint. So I said, well, let's definitely have a look into Chargepoint. So I only really found out these guys maybe a month and a half ago. Started doing my homework, started seeing all of the chargers they have, the fact that, you know, they have provided a lot of miles worth of electricity, and you realize that, you know, they're already very successful. They weren't publicly traded, but they are very successful. So before we go into how they work with each individual kind of subsector, this right here is the SPAC who we may be doing the merge with. Now, it's not confirmed yet. It's not a definitive agreement, but it's SwitchBack Energy, okay? Yesterday, we went up 27.27%. Pre-market today, you can see we're up about 10%. The market opens in about 2 hours from me recording this video. Obviously, a lot of excitement for this company, and I don't blame people whatsoever. So the deal might be announced as early as next week. So let's remember, guys, it's not definitive. The merger could fall through. Do I expect it to go through? I most certainly do, in all honesty. But again, it's not definitive. Anything can happen. And it could value Chargepoint at over $2 billion a share.
$2 billion a share. $2 billion a share.
You stupid.
So that's a very, and I mean very considerable sized business in the world of EV in general, especially when we go ahead and we have a look at the charging stocks. Recently, Chargepoint was valued at $1.37 billion during a private funding round last month. We can actually see that here, okay? Chargepoint raised $127 million as electric vehicle adoption grows among fleet operators. Important to know as well, we'll get into this a little bit more later, they're massive in North America and Europe, and I think the fact they're so big in Europe is actually going to be an advantage going forwards. We'll get into that later on. Now, these guys have some massive of investors, okay? A mix of existing investors from the oil and gas, utilities and venture industries added this round, including American Electric Power, Chevron Technology Ventures, okay, Clear Vision and Quantum Energy Partners, you'll know a lot of those names. And this latest addition, okay, pushes Chargepoint's total funding to $660 million. The company didn't provide a valuation, however, so a lot of what's happening right now is just, us trying to figure out what the value could be. If you've been on this channel literally ever, we all know how fast EV is growing. I mean, extremely, like literally disgustingly quick, and it's not going to slow down for a very long time, in my opinion. It says here, in the next 18 months, GM, Ford, Nissan and Volvo, along with startups Polestar and Rivian, I don't know why they're not including some of the even bigger ones like Lordstown Motors, who have 40,000 pre-orders, etc, will have electric vehicles in production. Then there's Tesla. ChargePoint is aiming to keep up with the pace of electrical vehicle adoption. They've done a fantastic job so far. But anyway, that's the basics, okay? So we know they're a very well established charging network. We have a whole lot of stations. We know that there hasn't been a definitive merger agreement just yet, and we know that they could be valued around the 2 billion mark. Honestly, in my opinion, I think it could end up being a little bit more by the time a definitive merger does happen, but we'll have to wait and see. That's all speculation. Let's go through the 3 separate kind of models they offer. So businesses, okay? Premium EV charging for customers and employees. So I mean, it's straightforward enough. We don't really need to go into detail here. But let's say, for example, you own a relatively large workplace or a relatively large retail store, and you want to have the ability for people with electric cars to go to your store and charge. And it is to my understanding that if you live in the US, essentially every big retail store has many charging stations at this stage. Now, I could be wrong, I'm not in the US, but from what I can gather, it's pretty much everywhere you would park, there is already charging stations. And I'm sure an awful lot of them are these ChargePoint charging stations. So the way they sell it, you've made the smart decision to go electric. Now, make it easy with ChargePoint. They just take care of everything. Fleets. This is a very exciting one to me. And why is it so exciting to me, okay? Because we can already see the demand in fleets for electric vehicles absolutely skyrocketing as of late. Again, I'll use Lordstown Motors as a quick example. So now we know that Lordstown has about 40,000 pre-orders or so, but the initial information we were given was Lordstown has already received about 27,000 pre-orders, and the average order size was 300 trucks. So why fleets are so exciting to me in regards to charging points in particular is because I genuinely believe that not only over the next year or two, but I think over the next few decades, there is going to just be constantly, and I mean constantly, more and more fleets gaining more and more electric vehicles and thus needing more and more electric charging stations. I mean, the thing is, you could have a retail store, okay, that sees 10,000 people through a day, and out of those 10,000 people, you might see 50 electric vehicles, and so they may well only need to order 1 or 2 or maybe 5 charging stations. Whereas if you're a fleet and you plan on having 300 vehicles all relatively kept at a central location or charged at a central location, it leads to bigger orders and it leads to bigger partnerships going forwards. It is very much so, in my opinion, going to be repeat business, and the word of mouth would travel a lot faster from fleet to fleet than from retailer to retailer, from business to business, in my opinion. I think a lot of people are realizing that, outside of Tesla, a lot of money in EV is going to be made through fleets. Tesla is so far ahead in the realms of, your everyday car, the car that you, me, or an individual would buy. A lot of the other companies people speak about, we speak about Hyliion, we speak about Workhorse, we speak about Lordstown Motors. They're targeting fleets people. That's who they're targeting. They're not trying to sell their vehicles to the everyday person. And that's something that should be kept in mind, in my opinion. Tesla has their charging stations as well. They have their own option. But I think specifically when we look at charging related companies, fleets are going to be absolutely massive. Now, I could end up being wrong, who knows, but that is what I believe to be true. They also bring up this statement here. 67% of vehicles sold in Europe will be electric by 2025. You don't see a lot of companies speaking about the European market right now. It's just the way it is. I live in Europe, I live in Ireland. I can tell you guys, it would be a struggle for me to go and find an electric vehicle charging station. I can literally think of one in my town. I can only think of one. There could be more, but I genuinely don't even know where they are. Whereas I'm sure if you're watching from the US, you go on a 5-minute drive, you probably see multiple places to go and charge. There's a massive market in Europe. In general, the United States is ahead of us, in regards to technology and everything that comes with it. But I do like to see companies, looking far forward enough to be getting heavily involved in Europe, which ChargePoint already is doing. They're not saying that they want to penetrate Europe in 3 to 4 years. They're saying that they're already there. They're setting themselves up. And another reason that makes a lot of sense for fleets in particular, okay? These are businesses. Whenever we say fleets, just think business. What the businesses like doing, okay? They like efficiency. They like cost savings. They like saving money, reducing their margins. They like having more money to reinvest into their business as opposed to spending it on petrol or ICE vehicles that need to be replaced very often. So they offer energy management tools that lower your installation and electricity costs. I mean, that's really all I even need to read here. Everything else is awesome as well, but that's the most important thing. Money talks. And I think now pretty much every fleet operator in the world understands how important EV are going to be going forwards, even if they couldn't care less about the environment from a monetary perspective. They just make an awful lot of sense. And then they offer fueling solutions for every charging application, okay? So literally, they just offer everything you could possibly need. And then the last one we have here is just your drivers, your everyday driver, you or me if we wanted to buy an electric vehicle. And essentially, it's easy to charge wherever you go. You just set up one account and charge everywhere. Use stations from Chargepoint and all other major providers with your Chargepoint account, so you're not limited just to their chargers, and find available stations where you are. Now, this is fairly standard across all chargers, but still. So that's the basics of who they actually target, okay? And I do just think that fleets are something that can't afford to be overlooked in general. A few more things to keep in mind, okay? If we have a look at some of their partners, okay? Car makers, BMW, Cadillac, Chevrolet, everybody that you're going to think, there's a whole lot of them. But then we see their customers. I mean, there is just huge names here. 3M, Dell, eBay, GM, Google, LinkedIn, Johnson & Johnson. Then you have your retail and hospitality companies. I mean, you know all of these companies. MasterCard, Microsoft, Netflix. They work with the government. That is always something you love to see. US Department of the Treasury, Department of Transportation, US General Service Administration. Utilities. There is a long list of utility companies they're working with. And then parking service providers. That just makes sense. I mean, what's really cool to me, okay, is they have a whole customer story section. And you can click a logo to see how EV charging worked for that organization. I mean, there's loads of different ones. But let's just say we wanted to have a look at BMW and what they actually do for BMW. They provided them with 7 charging spots, 6 level 2s plus 1 DC fast, and they were used 3,100 times the first year. 60% of the Fortune 50 companies are Chargepoint customers. I mean, we already saw that. We have so many massive names using Chargepoint already, and they've been doing this for more than a decade. They have 175 partners. They're by EV drivers for EV drivers. This is actually one thing I really think is cool. The entire Chargepoint leadership team drives electric. I mean, that's pretty cool. We're 100% focused on EV charging and know it better than anyone else. Our solutions are designed and tested by people who drive electric. Over 200 EV drivers at our headquarters alone. More than 70 Chargepointers have been working on electric mobility with us for 5+ years and 11 for over a decade. And where things get super exciting is they want to have 2.5 million places to charge by 2025 alone. That could offer some absolutely immense, and I mean truly immense, growth potential for this company at current prices. So I mean, this SPAC went public last year and it raised $300 million in the offering. Who knows what kind of market cap we could be looking for this company if they do decide to go public through this reverse merger. It's really hard to even kind of put an estimate on it right now. I know they say there's an estimated valuation of about $2 billion, but we'll have to wait and see. What I will say right now is if you're considering investing, okay, It's absolutely incredibly speculative. The primary reason is because it's not a definitive agreement yet, okay? With that being said, is it worth taking a bet on? Potentially. I'm considering investing. My mind is not made up yet. I am not 100% decided on whether or not I will. I do love the company, but what would really fill me with confidence is first of all, seeing a definitive agreement, seeing what the pipe looks like, and also seeing what our pro forma equity would be. After I see those things, if it still looks attractive, you know, I'd be very happy to invest, especially at these current price points. I mean, I honestly don't think it's necessarily the cheapest price points in the whole wide world. And I honestly don't see, you know, this being a 200%er in a matter of a couple of months like we've seen with a lot of SPACs. But what I do see is a SPAC, you know, that has been around for a long time. The company itself has been around for a long time and they've been performing for a long time. That's not something we've seen with a lot of other SPACs. We haven't seen it with Hyliion. We haven't seen it with Lordstown. We haven't seen it with Nikola. These guys have been around and have been performing extremely well for a long time. But I do just want to see a little bit more, specifically in regards to what the merger will actually look like before I would be very confident investing. Now, who knows? That could mean that I miss out ultimately. It could mean that it shoots up in value. I could have everything wrong. And that's okay. You don't have to be involved in every single play. Especially over this last while, I only invest in companies that I am extremely confident in. So this may end up being one of them. We're just going to have to wait and see. One more thing I'll obviously be doing as well is keeping up to date with them a lot more than I have been in the past. You guys know I love to see a company that has, you know, news coming out every couple of weeks, every month or so at the absolute latest, especially if it's going to be a SPAC and a relatively speculative investment. We haven't really seen that with Chargepoint. I mean, our last one was August 4th, Before that, it was March 31st. Now, not that this is a breaking point or it means I definitely wouldn't invest in them, as I have tried to make quite clear I really like the look of the company, but I want to see some more news come out. I want to see some definitive agreements. I want to see the pro forma equity valuation. I want to see the pipe. I want to see where the money's going to go. I want to know more about the exact number of stations. I want to see, you know, a better laid out plan for the next year, 2 years, not just numbers being thrown out for 5 years down the line. I just want to see a little bit more so I get a little bit more confident. Nonetheless, very exciting company, and I did want to bring it to your guys' attention because, I mean, it's extremely exciting. But that is pretty much everything I think needs to be said right now until we get more information. What I will say is I do already like them more than Blink. Now, so be it, Blink has a much smaller market cap. They're also very, very volatile. They could potentially have more upside potential. They could also have more downside potential. But as of this moment in time, I have to say I prefer the look of Chargepoint. Now, of course, my opinions are always subject to change. You know, it can all change with a piece of news. But it's just something I wanted to mention because I know a lot of people would ask me about Blink. But anyway, guys, that is that for today's video. So, guys, if you have watched until the end of the video, I appreciate you so much. You, my friend, are a true legend. I really do hope you enjoyed, and I hope I was able to give you some, you know, value and insight into this very exciting up-and-coming SPAC. But please just don't get really excited. Go out there, read into the company a bit, do your due diligence, make your own thoughts and opinions in regards to this company. But I always like to make it really clear in a video like this where we're speaking about a more speculative company, because I carry a bias. Everybody on this channel knows, you know, I love EV to pieces, so I carry a natural bias. But if you did enjoy and I was able to help you out, can I please ask just gently tap that like button if you haven't yet, drop me a comment and subscribe if you're new around here. And if you do want to know whenever I buy a new company, hit the first link in my description and become a patron, guys. You will get all of my buy and sell alerts. There are loads of individual stock chats about there. There are people in there speaking about this already. That's actually where it got put onto my radar, so you know you can get some really good ideas in that Discord. But anyway, guys, I do hope that you enjoyed today's video. I hope that you all have an absolutely fantastic day and the market treats you well. I will see you for tomorrow's video. Peace.